My grandfather left a riddle instead of inheritance instructions, so I solved it and found what he hid in our basement walls. When Grandpa Theo died last spring, the whole family gathered for the will reading like vultures circling roadkill. My cousins whispered about his rumored fortune. Decades of owning the town's only hardware store had to amount to something substantial. Uncle Rick kept checking his watch, probably already planning how to spend his inheritance on that boat he'd been eyeing. But instead of dividing up bank accounts and property deeds, the lawyer handed us each a folded piece of paper with Grandpa's spidery handwriting. Where memories sleep in wooden beds and tools once rested overhead, beneath the place where mason jars stood guard, your future waits behind what's hard. What the hell is this supposed to mean? Uncle Rick snapped, crumpling his copy. Where's the real will? The lawyer adjusted his glasses nervously. This is what Mr. Theodore left as his final instructions. He was quite specific that whoever solved the riddle would inherit everything. My cousins immediately started arguing about hiring private investigators and demanding the house be searched professionally, but I just stared at the paper, remembering summer afternoons in Grandpa's basement workshop. That night, while my relatives bickered over strategy, I drove to the old house. Mom had given me the spare key months ago when Grandpa's memory started failing. The basement still smelled like sawdust and WD-40, exactly how I remembered, where memories sleep in wooden beds. I looked around the workshop. Grandpa's old workbench dominated one corner, covered in decades of scratches and stains. But wooden beds, that had to mean something else. Then I remembered. Against the far wall stood Grandpa's pride and joy, a massive wooden tool cabinet he'd built himself in the 1960s. Each drawer was lined with felt, creating perfect resting places for his tools. Wooden beds for his precious instruments, and tools once rested overhead. Above the cabinet, mounted on the wall, were the pegboards where Grandpa hung his larger tools. Hammers, levels, saws, all organized with obsessive precision. Beneath the place where mason jars stood guard, my heart started racing. On top of the tool cabinet sat rows of mason jars filled with nuts, bolts, screws, and washers. Grandpa's system for organizing hardware. They stood like sentries, guarding whatever lay beneath. Your future waits behind what's hard. I ran my hands along the back wall behind the cabinet. The paneling felt different in one section. Newer, slightly raised. When I pressed against it, it gave slightly. It took me 20 minutes to move the heavy cabinet away from the wall. Behind it, a section of paneling had been carefully cut and rehung. No nails or screws held it in place. The panel lifted away easily, revealing a hidden cavity stuffed with manila envelopes. The first envelope contained $47,000 in cash. The second held stock certificates worth at least 6 figures. The third was filled with gold coins. But the fourth envelope made my hands shake. Inside were dozens of photographs and a thick folder of documents. Pictures of my Uncle Rick meeting with developers, signing papers, shaking hands over briefcases full of cash. Documents showing how he'd been systematically stealing from Grandpa's business for 15 years, selling parcels of the family land without permission, even forging Grandpa's signature on loans. A handwritten note in Grandpa's shaky script was paperclipped to the front. I've known about Rick for years but needed proof. These photos were taken by the private investigator I hired. Rick thinks I'm a senile old fool, but I've been watching. The store is bankrupt because of him. He's been planning to contest my will and take everything. Don't let him destroy what our family built. My phone buzzed. A text from my cousin Danny. Uncle Rick hired a lawyer. He's claiming the riddle is invalid and demanding the house be searched tomorrow. I couldn't fit what happens next in this short video. Watch the rest down below.